Welcome to the Solution Point, where we have solutions for your life, your business, and the law. And before we get into it, remember to click the subscribe button below or subscribe on your podcatcher, and make sure you like this video. And to get started, let me introduce my co-host, Catalina.
Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's also a pleasure to introduce our guest today. Nick Nanton is a gentleman we met when we go every quarter. We meet up with our entrepreneurial attorneys, and we get together and meet other fantastic folks. And we had the pleasure of meeting Nick Nanton, and we humbly asked him to join our podcast. And of course, his bio, as I'm going to let you know, 22-time Emmy Award Winning Director and Producer, and a Wall Street Journal bestselling author. So yes, we were super excited that he came to join us here at the Solution Point and to kind of give us solutions to problems he's discovered. And so again, welcome, Nick Nanton.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Just a little bit of about yourself, maybe introduce yourself to our listeners and audience.
Yeah, I am an attorney also. I don't practice law, but I have spent most of my life as a songwriter, and then now directing and producing documentaries. And I have an undergrad degree in finance, and so I'm more of a business guy than a filmmaker. But film has been a really fun way to see the world, meet great people, and share stories that impact people. So that's me. I've got a wife of 19 years this month, and 3 kids, 16, 13, and 1 turns 10 this month. So
fantastic. Congratulations.
Yeah, we're running in parallel.
Awesome.
So Nick, as the name of the show is, the Solution Point. So I know you probably have a whole bunch of different solutions that you could share with our audience. But tell us a little bit about what solutions that you tend to provide. And I'll let you kind of freeform it. But I know one of the things that kind of has been on the radar lately is telling your story and the importance of making sure that in your in your sales pitch, in your daily interaction with clients, you kind of the importance of telling your personal story. I don't know if you want to talk about that or anything you want to talk about. The Grammy Award winning person gets to
Emmy Award winning.
Emmy. I'm giving you some more awards.
That's totally fine. So yeah, I mean, the biggest problem, or the thing that I see the most, is that people are they're really confused about what branding is, right? Because there's all sorts of branding consultants and whatever else. And I just tell everyone, it's super simple. Your brand is simply your story. Like, that's really the best way I can explain it. And a great brand is a story other people want to share for you. So the problem that I found that most business owners have in the marketplace is trying to stand out. I mean, we've all been there, and we know we could be doing more. We could help more people if they just knew who we were and how we could help them. So I've spent the last 15 years helping nearly 4,000 business owners across the world share their stories in different types of media. I use media because media is simply a medium for sharing your story, and there's lots of different ones. Different people will argue about which one's better, which one's best, whatever. But at the end of the day, it really is just what's the one that your ideal target market is going to consume. And for most of us, we consume multiple types of media, and there's certain types of media we're not in love with. So we use all sorts of different types of media to reach their target audience. So that's really what I've spent the majority of my time doing. And then, of course, the last 10 years, we've put together, I think, close to 70 documentaries now. And so that's allowed me to get like way deeper into storytelling for nonprofits, causes, and entrepreneurs. I've gotten to tell the stories of some amazing entrepreneurs like Peter Diamandis, the founder of the EXCERPT, who put the first private spaceship up in space, and there's been a ton. Jack Canfield, who is, created the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, sold 500 million books. Rudy, the football player, told Larry King's life story. That's Larry King's Time Suspenders behind me. It's a gift from the King family. So
Wow.
it's led me on a journey. So that's me.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that I guess is important to also remember when telling your story is having authenticity, because people will see through fake real quick, and if they don't see it real quick, they'll see it at the most inopportune time for you. And so, can you expand upon that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I want to make sure it's the most useful for your listeners.
Sure.
So let's, like, what do you think would be the most helpful thing for them in what context? And I can expand it however you'd like.
All right. So let me tell you what kind of our typical client and listener might be: transportation business, small business owners. That's kind of who we're directing this at.
Okay. And so then, all right, let me make sure I understand the question. Just ask me one more time, if you would.
Okay. So I guess I forgot what I was asking. So
I remember.
Okay. Kat, that's why I have Kat here, because she's got she
my ADD forgot too. While I was,
yeah.
So go ahead. Sorry.
No problem. And I mean, we've been talking about the story, and your book is fantastic.
Thank you.
We've read Nick's book, and we'll make sure to put the information in the description about how to get Nick's latest book and how he really speaks to that. And I believe you had a co-author, correct? The one that we had spoken with at the Richard James. But what we were talking about is getting to how do you convey that authenticity in your story as well, and that can be, you can bridge that, like you said, branding is someone telling your story, but how does that come off? How do you get to that sweet spot of authenticity so that it really communicates across many levels?
Perfect. So the best way I can tell you is that there's sort of, most of us start out with thinking our story is not a big deal, because thankfully most of us don't have raging huge egos. However, our story is, and our journey in life is what led us to this moment right now, right? And so what I try to help people understand is that people don't know your story and where you came from, what you've been through, successes and failures. And the more you're willing to share those things, both sides of them, the more your authenticity will show through. And from a business perspective, the more your ideal client will know that you are the perfect person to help them. Oh, they'll understand me because they've been divorced, or they've owned a company, or they've been bankrupt, or they've also been married for 30 years, or like, it's all of these things that not everything, well, if everything you say aligns with someone 100%, they're never going to look anywhere else, because they think you've been like living their same life. So like, oh, you get me. It's sort of like when two strangers meet and they could be 30 years difference in age, but they're from within 3 blocks of each other. They trust each other, like, for no good reason. Just like, oh, you're from around the corner. You lived on Pine Street. I lived on Elm Street. That's awesome. And like, there's no other reason for trust than like they have one thing that's foundational to them in common. Yeah. But the more we share and the more people do align with certain things. So like, I said, I've been married for almost 19 years. Well, most people would gather from that I'm pretty good at long-term relationships. Right. Yeah. And so the more you share those things, there's going to be people who are hate marriage and be like, that's just probably going to go over their head. But those who are just going to fly right by them. Or if I talk about my dog that I was making a movie for Canines for Warriors. They take rescue dogs and turn them into service dogs, give them to wounded warriors with PTSD, and it helps stop suicides. Well, there's a lot in there. My dog failed out of the program, and he was one of the ones that didn't make it. He's a flunky. I adopted him now. Emmett's been with us for a few years now. And so people who aren't pet people probably don't care, but people who are dog people or have a military, interest, or have dealt with PTSD, like I just, to use the term that, it's a political term too, but a dog whistle. It's something that makes them, oh, wait a minute. I that's like me. Oh, yeah. He or she understands me. They get me. So it's really sharing your story authentically the ups and the downs. And I don't, you have to try it a few times to make sure you've got it right. I mean, you don't want to tell every girlfriend you had and every car tire you changed. Like, there's some pretty pivotal moments. I would say for the most part, if you break people's lives down, it's sort of like adolescence, probably college, or maybe even high school and college, early career, depending on how old they are, and then like career 2.0. Like, if I were to ask you to write down your 5 or 10 best and worst experiences in each of those 3 or 4 time frames and most memorable things, it's funny. It's like therapy. You probably wouldn't even, something sticking in your head from 3rd grade and you don't even know why, but it stuck with you for a reason. Like, it did. And so if you take the time to do an exercise like that, you'll it's very informative of why you're doing what you do right now. But most people never take the time to look at it. So I try to help my clients celebrate their past, the good and the bad, because it is what made you who you are. And that is authenticity. The more I can share with you who I really am, the more you're going to either vibe with me or not. And it's a Dan Kennedy quote: the rate at which you repel is the rate at which you attract. So it's okay if not everyone's for you. That's great. Actually, the more you share and the more you have like really people who really align with you, the easier it is to be friends with them and do business with them.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, Nick, just to plus one, I think what you're saying is you want to tell your story authentically and tell the good and the bad, because the people who are going to resonate with you are going to really want to connect, and the people who just either are put off by it are people you probably aren't going to want to be in business with anyway. So they're going to be put off and they're going to come out. And then there's some of the people in the middle that they may not hear half of what you're saying because they only 1 or 2 points resonate with them, but that's enough for them to set up an appointment, as an example.
That's the secret is, if you don't have a lock on your foundational values, then you're going to be wishy-washy. You're going to sort of blow in the wind, and you're going to, I don't care who you are, you're going to come across as a salesman. Right. And so the more you get your foundational values down when you have them down, like masterfully, every fork in the road, there's still only one path, because it's very obvious which one. Like, I got offered a documentary deal. I don't know what's today. Oh, it's July 1st. I got offered a documentary deal like about a month ago, and it was a $500,000 ish, and it was over with some celebrity people and a big athletic program, they said, and we got this reunion thing going, and there's these dates we need to film. And I said, I just got to stop you right there. I know I can pull this project off, and I'd love to do it with you. It sounds amazing, but if this whole project is the requirement is I've got to be there on any of those 3 days of that reunion. That's my daughter's dance nationals. She's 9. I'm not going to miss it. So I know I can pull it off for you, but I don't want to string you along if that is important to you. And I end up losing the deal, but that's okay. Now, look, if my family wasn't eating, I'd have to make a different decision. Right. So family eating would be a foundational value above the other. Right.
Right.
But
hierarchy of needs.
Exactly right. And so, but because we're talking about it's been a great gig for me, great revenue and all that. But like, my foundation values, I'm not going to miss the important things in my kids' lives. Right. And so it's just all those things. And so I think the more you can nail those things down and be strong. I mean, it could be your political affiliations. That's not really my thing, but it could be your faith. That is one for me. I mean, so it's just, what are your foundational values, and what are you unwilling to waver from? And if you focus on those things, you'll find that you'll be pretty magnetic to the right people.
Yeah. And I guess
It kind of reminds me, I'm sorry, but right above my shoulder is the cover of Mike's first book. And we've talked about this, Mike. He's got a few books in the works, but the book is called Roadmap to Rich, and it's kind of how he used his real estate addiction and really kind of grew and shared with folks how you can get rich, basically through real estate investing. But after the book, was, the second story. And he's talked about, what, I need to share that story because it was the fall. It was, losing all of those properties, for reasons, and explaining that. And it's like, it kind of brings me back. I'm thinking about that authenticity and how, that book is waiting to be written to kind of bring it all together, and then the rise again, right? So I love the point of the discussion of that authenticity, and it is basically you have to show the good and the bad to make that. I like that.
Yeah, and also the other thing that people get nervous by all the time is funny. Like I've had several people who either I have gifted a documentary to on their life, or someone else hired me and gave them as a gift, and they were super nervous about it because their story wasn't over. Like it was, thankfully, to borrow a Dan Sullivan term, their future, they had a belief that their future was gonna be bigger than their past. So it's like, well, no, I got to accomplish this thing first. But I'm a big fan of telling your story to date. And then, of course, I hope your future is bigger than your past. And we'll tell another story when that segment is done, or we'll cover that as it goes. But it's funny, there's a lot of analysis paralysis when it comes to sharing your story because I'm not done yet. Well, the good news is you're not done yet. When you're done yet, then you're done. Like that's not a fun day. That's a game over day. And so I highly encourage people to like not overthink that. Just share where you've come from. And I guarantee you there's stories in your past that could shift people's lives, but you have to choose to tell them. No, I mean, no one else can do it for you. And if you don't, look, there are people scouring the earth looking for someone who looks, sounds, and acts just like you. And there's only one of those people on earth. And if you don't do a good job helping those people find you, they're gonna be lost. And every every business owner, every entrepreneur, every coach, every whatever, every lawyer, has a perfect ideal client. And the more you share your foundational values, your goals, who you really are, things you support, things you're against, the more you're going to find a perfect customer. You're never going to have that customer that's like, we should never, the customer you got to fire, right? Because when you share those things, like I have a no a-hole rule. Like it's just a rule I have in life. Like I don't care how rich you are, how famous you are, how much money you want to give me. If I think you're an a-hole, I'm out. Like it's just not even going to happen.
And how long does it take you to find that out? Do you have any particular questions you ask?
I would say it usually comes out pretty quickly. I mean, there's a few times, and it's really typically in the way people treat others around them. And so it doesn't matter if it's an assistant or we've all heard the waiter story, or like, it doesn't matter. You can tell pretty quickly the way people treat other people around them. I think it's probably the fastest way to tell.
Yeah. And going back to avoiding have to fire a client later, it's one of those things where sometimes, having your priorities of, hey, I need to eat, and feed my family, you might take a case that you don't want, or you might take a job that you don't want. My lesson that I've learned over time is try to as much as possible not go there.
Right.
If you can switch to rice and beans instead of steak for a week, it's worth it, because what always happens is it leaves a bad taste in everybody's mouth. And then you
It
wind
beats
up,
up your staff too.
yeah,
Like your team, if it's a bad fit, you're actually counter. It's going counter to all your, especially if you have core values as a team. Like you're basically selling your team out, right? So yeah, you should try it. I'm an impatient person. I am. Actually, I did an assessment not long ago, and someone said, "Actually, Nick, you're not impatient. Everyone else just works at about a tenth of the pace you do. So it's actually, you're not impatient. They're just too slow for the way you work." I was like, okay, got it. I like your spin on that. I'm not sure it's right, but I like it. And so, the thing is that when, when you are just working in this way, like my business partner years ago, I was so impatient about things not working out fast enough, or like a deal would come on my plate that wasn't quite right, but man, revenue wasn't looking very good, and it's, it's one of those things where business owners, we all do it. It's the 3rd of the month and revenue's not looking good and we're freaking out, right? It's like, we're not on pace, or it could be the 15th or the 18th of the month. And my business partner's like, Nick, you're a Christian guy, you have faith. It's like, yeah. He goes, well, if you want God to answer your prayers, you probably got to give him elbow room. Like, you got to give him some space. Like, it's not, one of my favorite, I'm a country songwriter. I write a lot of country music and pop. And one of my favorite lyrics ever is a guy named Eric Church. And it's mama ain't a shrink, daddy ain't a bank, and God ain't a wishing well. And I don't know that there's any truer words spoken. Yeah. So anyway, that's the end of that story.
Yeah.
No, that's good. God's timing for sure.
Yep.
All right. So Nick, I know your time is very valuable, and I don't want to abuse it. But one of the things I want to make sure that we also cover is, we like to cover different core values that our guests have, and what they use to kind of guide their decision making, and we want to make sure we're firm believers that you have to have core values, and if you don't, like you said, you're just going to be floating in the wind and do whatever comes in front of you, good or bad, and so to kind of share core values with our listeners, what's a core value that you have that you'd like to share?
Oh man, I think that, there's so many I could share, but
you can share a couple if you want.
All right, cool. One of the things that I think we all take for granted, even when we think we don't, is we all know that time is the only thing we cannot get back. Like, it's not going to come back. Yeah. Yet, we all do it, even in a sort of a helpless, or like an unintentional way. I won't say unintentional way of, like, we're sort of wishing the week away to get to a vacation, or wishing a meeting to be over so we can get to happy hour, or whatever it is. Yet, we would all certainly in our last days wish we had it back. And I would say that Brian Tracy told me one time, assuming you're I'm qualifying his statement, but assuming you're treating people well, your family and everything else, he said, Nick, your kids are going to judge your relationship by the amount of time they had with you face to face. And that's not face to phone. It's about the amount of time you had face to face. And so I encourage people to make time in their lives for those people who matter, because no matter how busy you are, that'll come and go. Anything that's important, you make time for. We just happen to have created a hierarchy that's usually around professional responsibility and money that we take more seriously than personal and familiar relationships. I remember my mentor and business partner, I was working years ago, and we were talking in a meeting, and my phone rang, and looked down, and he goes, "Oh, you can take this." I said, "No, it's just my mom. I'll call her back." He goes, "You know how much I wish I could get that call right now." He goes, "Take the call. One day you won't be able to take that call." And so I just encourage people to just sort of think through some of those issues and spend the time spend time with people you love, because everything else comes and goes.
Yeah, I love that. And if I can share, only because it's recently on my mind. I have 2 full-time jobs. I work here and I work at home. I'm also, with the kids and stuff. And sometimes you have a little more time here at work, and then I get to have a little more time at home, and it's a sliding scale. And yesterday, the littlest one, the 3-year-old, we have 7 kids total. 5 older boys, and then the 2 girls at the end. And I spend a lot of time with the 3-year-old, because the 5-year-old has been going to kinder. And when I got home, the 3-year-old, she was half asleep, and she was, it was already, almost 6 o'clock. I said, go ahead and take a little nap. I could tell she was exhausted. But the 5-year-old was raring to go. And I don't get enough one-on-one time with her. And sometimes I feel it, like, because Julie and I, the 3-year-old, we're like this. And sometimes with the 5-year-olds, I can butt heads with her, and she's got a very strong personality, and it's sometimes tough to manage. I wonder where she got it from. Yeah. But I'm like, was this how you were when you were little? I see it all now. But I got to spend a good hour, and we were just, and I was like, well, what are we going to do? We did whatever she wanted, and she wanted to be tickled. And we tickled and we danced and we, played horsey, and I gave her the horseback ride and whatever she wanted, and we did like a little craft that we pulled out with missing parts. Who cares? Let's do it. But I found that time so valuable. And I'm like, when you work out and the workout, it pays off, right? Like, after the workout and that glow, that workout glow or the benefits. That's how I felt all the rest of the evening. Even this morning, she's giving me more hugs. And it was like, oh my gosh, that's time well spent. And so I completely agree with you, Nick. And sometimes it's not a matter of, yes, spend time with them, but spend time on what they want to do. Not with, like, oh, mommy wants me to do this, or I need to, but she's spending time with me. We have to break down that ego, or like you said, and even if it's 45 minutes of straight up what they want to do, getting messy, playing on the floor or whatever. It's it pays. It keeps paying.
Spend the time. You won't regret it later. It's good advice.
Yeah. And just to plus one, having lost both of my parents, I can totally relate to that statement of always pick up the phone when mom calls.
My parents just brought my daughter back from a day of baking, so they're actually right outside the door here. So I'm gonna go see them for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Here in a minute.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much, Nick, for your time, and wish you all the best for the rest of the summertime with your kids, and we hope to see you soon again in another meeting.
And Will, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right, and we'll have some links to your website, Nick, down here. And so if you've liked what you've heard, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell so that you can get alerts as we post more content. And we thank you very much, and we'll see you next time on The Solution Point.